Hello, and welcome to the Department of Community Affairs Green Building for Affordable Housing webinar. I'm Laurel Correo, and I will be guiding you through the following content. Today, we will be talking about the general background of green buildings, what they are, and why we're focusing on them. Next, the relevant threshold criteria and how there's overlap with the QAP in our green building certification documentation. And lastly, we'll talk about sustainable building certification and the 4 eligible certification options. To get your certificate of participation, you will be required to attend for the full webinar. Afterwards, you will be sent your certificate of participation over email. So first, let's talk about the general background of what green buildings are and why we're focusing on them. So what is a green building certification? It's a rating system that enables developers to be recognized for enacting environmentally and resource-efficient practices into a building's life cycle. This occurs during design, construction, post-construction, and building operations and management. Consider the following. The EPA estimates that heating and cooling of buildings contributes to 43% of all national energy use. That means that green construction greatly contributes to decreasing greenhouse gases. So what are the benefits of green buildings? There are measurable financial impacts: lower energy bills, lower water bills, retained rents during market drops for light-tech green buildings. Plus, green building projects are more likely to attract investors for you as developers. There are also non-financial benefits that should be considered. There's a reduced exposure to environmental pollutants for residents. Plus, there are preventative measures made for mold formation, since mold has a significant detriment to residents' health. Additionally, VOCs are lowered by purchasing paints, countertops, and flooring materials with lower volatile organic compounds. This is important for improved resident health. Plus, green building certifications encourage improved connectivity to services and walkable neighborhoods. Also, lower overall environmental impact of construction and building use is a significant reason to want green buildings. Now let's talk about the relevant threshold criteria and how they overlap with the QAP in documenting green building certification. The following bolded threshold criteria have overlap with green building certification. And these are things you're already being asked to do prior to the building sustainability certification becoming a threshold requirement. In this section, I'll be walking you through the threshold requirements that have overlap with green building certification. And afterwards, you'll be provided a checklist for these sustainability items that you can expect to have overlap. First is the threshold criteria of environmental requirements. This involves environmental site assessments. The collection of this information will be valuable to you, your technical advisor / consultant in attaining a green building certification. For the QAP threshold, you already need to complete a phase 1 environmental site assessment and, if necessary, a phase 2 environmental site assessment. While this is required for DCA, it's also useful for green building certification. Next, we'll consider the way that the zoning threshold criteria overlap with green building certifications. The following items can be regulated by zoning, and these have impacts on your ability to get green certification prerequisites and points. This includes setbacks, buffers, street width, trees, building materials, building heights, and parking requirements. You'll want to make sure zoning will accommodate sustainable communities and buildings. Discussing zoning with your technical advisor/consultant in the early stages of your project can help you avoid complications related to zoning conditions. Now let's discuss the required amenities threshold criteria and how they relate to green building certification. Many of the following categories of required amenities can contribute to green building certification qualification and points. This involves the following: community gardens, open spaces, landscaping with native plants, and ENERGY STAR certified dishwashers and refrigerators. Now we're talking about Rehab Standards as a threshold criteria. The QAP already requires that an energy audit be prepared, which will be helpful for green building certification. For DCA, there are requirements for the hard cost, physical needs assessment, and energy audit. The energy audit needs to be completed prior to deconstruction. This is a measure for the energy impact of the improvements before and after the rehab. The results of the energy audit must be completed and submitted in the QAP application. The audit must be completed by a ResNet, HERS rater, or a BPI building professional. They are to test at least 1 unit per floor and a minimum of 15% of the unit. The goal of these energy audits is to show that or a 2.0 SRI or greater will be achieved. The energy audit report should include documentation that assessments have been completed on the minimum required number of units, documentation of existing conditions, and recommended measures to achieve the minimum energy savings. Please consider that adaptive reuse projects are exempt from this requirement. Now we're talking about the big ticket item, building sustainability threshold criteria. This includes A, sustainability standards, and B, what we're here for, sustainable building certification. The sustainability standards are what you've already been doing. This includes compliance with energy code, measured duct and envelope leakage, bathroom fans, lighting, plumbing fixtures, low VOC wall and floor finishes, water heaters, and ENERGY STAR appliances. These are all standards that DCA has been requiring in the past. Now we're going to talk about 2 of the building sustainability measures, energy code and duct envelope leakage. First, in discussing energy code, we want to highlight that the 2009 International Energy Conservation Code with Georgia State supplements and amendments is required. You can prove this with your 8609. Please also note that historic buildings may apply for an exemption. Also, in 2020, the Georgia Energy Code will update to the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code with Georgia state supplements and amendments. So this is due to change. Regarding measured duct and building envelope leakage, the building code requires that you test duct and envelope leakage rates. However, this is included as a threshold requirement just to stress its importance. This is verified by a FERS rater. All units must meet 7 ACH 50 unless the unit is less than 1,200 square feet. If the unit is less than 1,200 square feet, they may instead use an ELR, an envelope leakage rate. This threshold has been altered to 0.35 ELR in CFM 50 per square feet of the building envelope. Rehab units are required to achieve 20% improvement over existing conditions based upon pre-rehabilitation duct leakage and dwelling unit air leakage rates. Also, adaptive reuse must meet new construction duct leakage and air leakage requirements. As a reminder, these are the building sustainability criteria that you are already required to reach for threshold. These will be included in your packet with a checklist of items you should follow. Now, let's discuss the required documentation to meet Sustainable Building Certification threshold. First, you'll need your draft scoring sheet, meeting a minimum number of points for your green building certification. This is an estimate of what points you will attempt for your green building certification. As seen on the right, it is a checklist with different points that you plan to achieve. Each green building certification has their own version of this checklist. You can work with your green building consultant to determine which points are best for your project. Second, you'll need your certificate of participation in today's webinar. And lastly, you'll need an energy audit report for rehab. The purpose of the energy audit is to find high priority items that should be addressed, but aren't in the scope of work so that they can be incorporated into the scope before everything is finalized. Our intent is for developers to have an energy audit done before finalizing the scope of the renovation. By budgeting early, the energy audit can impact the scope of work, increasing energy savings. The requirement is in alignment with the Georgia Power's Home Energy Improvement Program. Now we'll talk about sustainable building certifications and the 4 eligible certification options. Your options include EarthCraft, Enterprise Green Communities, Lead for Homes, and the National Green Building Standard. Principles for all of the green building certifications include an integrated design process, considering resource efficiency, for example, water, materials, and energy, site selection and neighborhood connections, construction waste management, ventilation and indoor air quality, third-party verification and performance testing, and developing a draft scoring sheet before or during design. The developer and design team may develop an initial worksheet strategy with the help of a green building certification consultant. The general contractor often further shapes the worksheet through the cost estimation for the job. The following details green building certification timeline. The timeline typically involves a planning and design phase, a construction and verification phase, and then finally the certification. During planning and design, you'll contact a third-party verifier, plan review and energy model, meet for review scoring, and do subcontractor training. During the construction and verification phase, pre-drywall verification will occur, final verification, and project review. Afterwards, your certification will be completed. Please consider project updates will happen. This can have impact on requirements for your design, and the energy modeling software might need updates. By getting in touch with your green building certification consultant early and registering with your certification, you can avoid consequences of updates. Okay, now let's start talking about the 4. First, we're going to talk about the LEED for Homes green building certification. For those of you who have experience working with LEED new construction, it's important that you consider that the LEED Homes system is a little different. LEED for Homes projects require the participation of 3 groups. USGBC oversees the program and who certifies projects. The verification team, consisting of the green rater and provider, conducts all verification inspections for the project team. Members of the verification team cannot act as the lead AP homes professional on the project team. The project team consists of builders, architects, HVAC engineers, and/or the lead AP homes professional. This team is responsible for designing, building, and submitting the necessary paperwork for the project. The program requirements for the LEED Homes version 4 includes compliance with Energy Star 3.0 or 5% over ASHRAE 90.1 2010 credentials. Plus, you should have the following: refrigerant charge testing, energy metering, water pressure and leak testing, durability management, Energy Star water management, multifamily 0.23 envelope leakage ratio, mechanically controlled fresh air ventilation test, exterior vented bathroom fans and kitchen hoods tested, manual J and D, minimum MERV 8 air filters, and no allowed environmental tobacco smoke. Please make sure to consider the common mistakes for achieving the LEED for Homes certification. As we talked about, the LEED for Homes delivery model is different from the new construction model. So there's a provider and green rater that serve as a third-party verification role and cannot serve as the project administrator role. Also, make sure to read over and understand program prerequisites. Is this program a good fit for your project? Will your project meet all prerequisites, such as ventilation requirements, make sure to contact your provider or Green Rater early to prevent prerequisite noncompliance or lost credit. And lastly, consider that the energy model is associated with points. The goal is to implement the most efficient energy measures the project can afford, not just to meet Energy Star requirements. Now let's discuss the National Green Building Standard. The National Green Building Standard has 4 performance levels: bronze, silver, gold, or emerald. What makes the National Green Building Standard a little different is that there is a minimum number of points that must be awarded for each of the following categories: lot development, resource efficiency, energy efficiency, water efficiency, indoor environmental quality, and homeowner education. With this standard, builders work with the National Green Building Standard green verifiers throughout the program. The process begins with project registration. Project must be registered before any inspections occur. Green verifiers are able to register the project. The builder will sign builder agreement, provide proof of insurance, and fill out a scoring sheet. Under the standard, green verifiers report all inspections to Home Innovation. All multifamily buildings require an inspection before drywall and after completion. Buildings are certified and not individual units. There have been some updates to the National Green Building Standard. First is an update in energy efficiency. Today, the National Green Building Standard uses the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code. The energy compliance path for the HERS index includes point system customized for multifamily buildings. Grade 1 insulation installation is mandatory. Source energy metric is included as an option for compliance under the performance path, and innovative practices include the consideration of grid interactive electric thermal storage, electric vehicle charging stations, and automatic demand response systems. Other updates include resource efficiency regarding new references on innovative practices for environmental product declarations with specific and industry-wide products. Indoor environmental air quality, in that carbon monoxide alarm installation is now mandatory for all buildings regardless of level of certification or local code. Plus, land development update. Stormwater management options have been revamped to encourage low-impact development practices, and there's now an emphasis on multimodal transportation options, including bicycle parking, pedestrian connectivity, proximity to transit, and electric vehicle charging. Now we'll be discussing the EarthCraft Green Building Certification. This certification focuses on the following criteria: site planning, construction waste, resource efficiency, durability and moisture, indoor air quality, envelope performance, energy efficient systems, water efficiency, education and operations, and innovation. On the right, you can see the different points criteria that must be reached for each level. Please note that in gold, you must have Energy Star certified, and in platinum, you have Energy Star certified and Indoor Air Plus, and WaterSense. The EarthCraft multifamily program requirements include 2009 International Energy Conservation Code and elements of the 2012 IECC. Compliance with ASHRAE 62.2, 2007 ventilation, complete detailed HVAC load calculation, compliance with thermal bypass checklist, meeting the diagnostic testing threshold, and achieving the worksheet point minimum seen on the previous slide. For gut rehab, you can use the new construction worksheet and you get 8 points for reusing a building. You're able to waive certain requirements that are not achievable due to it being an existing building, like infiltration rates and durability measures such as flashing, foundation drainage, and more. In non-gut rehab, you can use the renovation worksheet. EarthCraft requires prerequisites of meeting air infiltration of less than or equal to 12 ACH 50. However, the QAP requires a more stringent air infiltration, and you're able to use that because they give you a waiver. Other prerequisites include meeting or exceeding the 2009 IECC and local amendments for accessible portions of building. Existing moisture damage, including areas of mold and mildew in buildings, must be removed and cleaned within a 2-foot minimum radius of water. Now we're going to discuss Enterprise Green Communities Green Building Certification. What's exciting about this certification option is that it's a green building standard made by affordable housing for affordable housing. It's also achieved through an integrative design process with focus on optimizing location and site features, water conservation, energy efficiency, and property operation practices. Here we see a graphic that describes the certification process. It's important to know that you apply online during the design phase at least 30 days before construction starts. You must complete a design charrette during this time. This will involve meeting with the many participants of the design and construction of your building who will be able to help you optimize your points achievement for this green building certification. It's also important to know that you must submit final documentation online within 60 days of completing your construction. To achieve certification, you must meet all mandatory measures. This includes things like site location, compact development, and walkable neighborhoods. You also must achieve the appropriate number of optional points. For new construction, you need 35 points, and for rehab projects, you need 30 points. Key mandatory measures include locating an urban project within a half mile to a mile of amenities, having all new construction projects achieve Energy Star version 3 certification. Rehabs must achieve HERS index of 85, individual or sub-metered utility meters for all units, ASHRAE 62.2 2010 criteria are met. There should be resident and management training, and utility tracking is required. What sets Enterprise apart is their mandatory resident health and resiliency measures that are set into their key mandatory measures. When you're ready to contact one of the 4 options for your green building certification, please use these links as a reference. To review, today we talked about the background of green building, the relevant threshold criteria and how they overlap the QAP and green building certification documentation. And lastly, we talked about the 4 eligible sustainable building certifications for threshold. As we leave today, please remember that green buildings have benefits for developers, residents, and the earth. Many of the prerequisites and points to be attained in these standards are already required by the QAP. To attain the sustainable building threshold, be sure to contact a green building consultant early to avoid any difficulties. This concludes our webinar. Thank you for participating. You will receive your certificate by email shortly. If you have any questions, please contact the following people. Thank you.